In Spanish, translation isn't just about knowing the words, having the vocabulary. If we want to translate this, there's a lot of grammar that we need to apply. The first thing I can look at is this word Tegucigalpa, and here I need to apply my knowledge of what happens with the names of cities and towns. Tegucigalpa in English is just Tegucigalpa. I can just say it in an English accent. The same thing I do from English to Spanish. If I want to say Birmingham, I can just say it in a Spanish accent, Birmingham. Not many things actually translate. You've got London goes to Londres, New York, Nueva York, Edinburgh goes to Edimburgo, but most of the time cities and towns, they just stay the same. And it's the same vice versa, going from Spanish into English. Now, if I want to say is an important and big city, now the big mistake that a lot of people make when they're translating is they don't read far enough ahead. They don't think far enough ahead. If I just think is, es, an, I did this in school today, and lots of people were asking me, how do I say an? Or an is exactly the same. The question is, what is this referring to? Now, if I read ahead, important and big city, this is where I need to get to before I even go past the first word. Tegucigalpa, what is it? City. City in Spanish, ciudad. Words that end in dad are always feminine. Una ciudad, because it could be un or una to say a or an. So now I can start translating. Another key thing I need to remember is that nouns tend to go before adjectives in Spanish. So instead of Tegucigalpa is an important and big city, Tegucigalpa is a city, important and big. Or I could say big and important, whatever sounds best. As long as I'm not adding anything or removing anything, I can move things around a little bit. Tegucigalpa es una ciudad. So Tegucigalpa is a city. Now if I want to say important and big, importante, what's called a cognate, a word that's similar in sound, spelling, and meaning across 2 or more languages. Importante y grande. If I think it sounds a bit better to say big and important instead of important and big, here there's an important rule to know. Es una ciudad grande e importante. Why is it not y? Normally and is y. Why is it not e? Well, if my next word starts with an e sound, I need to change e to e. A bit like the same reason why we had an important to avoid important. It's to create that differentiation in sound. Just in that first sentence, we've talked about noun and adjective, word order. We've talked about the fact that city is feminine. We've talked about nouns being masculine or feminine, and the fact that the word for a or an, the indefinite article, could be un or una. These are all the things you need to think about when you're translating Spanish, when you're using the Spanish language. The next sentence, the center is very historic. Now here, though I've got an adjective, if I've got the verb ser between the noun and the adjective, then I don't need to swap them around. That's fine. The word order will stay the same. Now the word for there's 4 words for the: el, la, los, and las. Masculine singular, feminine singular, masculine plural, feminine plural. So I need to look again past the first word for the second word, center. Center in Spanish, centro. You can just change the E for an O. Centro. It ends in O. Most words that end in O are masculine, so it's going to be el centro. Just like in English, if I'm starting a sentence, I always start with a capital letter in Spanish. Not all languages have the same rules about capitalization. In Spanish, proper nouns have capitals, like Tegucigalpa would have a capital letter, even if it were mid-sentence. But things like days of the week, months of the year, nationalities, they don't need capitals in Spanish, but they do in English. With parks, libraries, and 14 museums. Con parques and that QU, it's not parques, something to watch out for, because a lot of people mistake the QU for a qu sound, but it's a k, just like the K. Libraries are bibliotecas, y, here I can use y, 14 museums, 14 museos. So that sentence was a bit more straightforward. At the start of the next one, there are also, here I would move things around a bit. I would say also, there are. So the word for also is, do you know the word for also? También. So whenever I'd say I also do, I'd say also I do. There also are, also there are. And the word for there are is the same word as there is. In English, if I'm saying there is one thing, and then I say there are 2 things, I'm changing is to are. But in Spanish, it's the same word, and that word is I. Spelled like hey, pronounced like I, or I. And here we're straight into another adjective. So again, I've got to be thinking nouns, adjectives, what am I doing with these? I'm going to read ahead. También hay modern restaurants and hotels. Now, there's a bit of ambiguity in English. Are just the restaurants modern, or are the hotels also modern? So I could either say, también hay restaurantes modernos y hoteles There are modern restaurants and hotels. If we think that this is also describing hotels, because it is a bit ambiguous, I could say también hay restaurantes y hoteles modernos. Because they're masculine and plural, moderno is going to be modernos to match up with those nouns. So with adjectives and nouns, remember adjectives tend to go afterwards and they've got to match up with the noun or the nouns that they're describing. Restaurante in the plural, because it already ends in E, restaurante, I'm just going to add an S. However, hotel in the singular ends in a consonant. If a word ends in a consonant in Spanish and I want to make it plural, I would add ES. Hoteles. So that sentence we've got también hay restaurantes y hoteles modernos.